The sun rose over the sprawling campus of Google's headquarters in Mountain View, California. It was a typical Tuesday morning at the tech giant's futuristic workplace, where employees moved between glass-walled offices, open-plan workspaces, and brightly lit cafeterias. Inside one of these buildings, Arjun Patel, a mid-level software engineer, sat at his desk with a steaming cup of coffee in hand. His laptop screen glowed with lines of code, and sticky notes filled with reminders were scattered around his workspace. To anyone passing by, Arjun looked like just another hard-working Googler. Arjun had been with the company for 5 years. He was known as a dependable team player who always delivered quality results. His colleagues admired him for his creativity and problem-solving skills. But lately, things weren't quite the same for Arjun. Over the past few weeks, he had taken on more responsibilities than usual. A new project, codenamed Project Phoenix, had landed on his plate, and it came with tight deadlines and high expectations. Everyone on the team knew how important this project was. It could redefine how millions of users interacted with Google's products. That morning, Arjun arrived at the office earlier than most people. He wanted to get a head start before the day's meetings began. As he settled into his chair, he couldn't shake off the fatigue that had been building up for days. His eyes felt heavy, and his mind struggled to focus. Still, he pushed through, determined not to let his exhaustion show. After all, working late nights and early mornings had become part of his routine lately. At 9:30 a.m., Arjun joined his team in a conference room for their daily stand-up meeting. These meetings were meant to be short and efficient, a quick update on everyone's progress, but today felt different. The fluorescent lights overhead buzzed softly, creating a dull hum that seemed louder than usual. Arjun tried to concentrate as his manager discussed the week's goals, but his eyelids grew heavier with each passing minute. Despite his best efforts, his body betrayed him. Slowly, his head tilted forward, his chin resting against his chest. Within moments, Arjun was fast asleep. No one noticed right away. The discussion continued, with team members sharing updates about their tasks. Then someone glanced in Arjun's direction and saw him slumped in his chair, breathing deeply. At first, there was a moment of silence as everyone processed what they were seeing. Then, a few nervous giggles broke out, followed by whispers. Someone pulled out their phone and snapped a discreet photo. The image quickly made its way onto internal chat groups, spreading like wildfire across the office. By lunchtime, the story of the guy who fell asleep in a meeting had become the talk of the town, or rather, the talk of Google HQ. Some joked about it, saying Arjun must have stayed up binge-watching Netflix instead of coding. Others speculated that he might be dealing with burnout or personal issues. Regardless of the reason, everyone agreed it was unusual for someone as diligent as Arjun to nod off during such an important meeting. Word eventually reached the ears of senior management, including Sundar Pichai, Google's CEO. When HR flagged the incident to Sundar, many expected him to react sternly. Would Arjun face disciplinary action? Would this go on his record? No one could predict what would happen next. What no one realized, however, was that Sundar saw this situation not as a failure on Arjun's part, but as an opportunity to reflect on something bigger, an issue that affected not just one employee, but potentially the entire workforce. As Arjun slept soundly, oblivious to the commotion unfolding around him, little did he know that his brief nap would spark conversations far beyond the walls of that conference room. And when Sundar decided to step in, his response would leave a lasting impact, not only on Arjun's life, but also on the culture of one of the world's largest companies. This version uses simple language and stays engaging while setting up the foundation for the rest of the story. Let me know if you'd like adjustments or further refinements. The meeting room, once filled with the hum of productivity and collaboration, now buzzed with a different kind of energy. Arjun Patel remained unaware of the attention he was drawing as his chest rose and fell rhythmically, his head nodding slightly with each breath. Meanwhile, his colleagues exchanged glances, unsure whether to wake him up or let him be. The awkwardness hung thick in the air like an invisible cloud. Sarah, a junior developer sitting across from Arjun, was the first to notice. At first, she thought maybe he was just zoning out, something many people did during long meetings. But when she saw his closed eyes and heard the faint sound of snoring, her jaw dropped. She nudged Rahul, the team lead, who sat beside her. "Rahul," she whispered, pointing discreetly toward Arjun. Rahul turned his head slowly, his eyebrows shooting up in disbelief. A ripple of suppressed laughter spread through the room. Some team members covered their mouths to stifle giggles, while others exchanged amused looks. One colleague, unable to resist, took out his phone and snapped a quick photo of Arjun sleeping. Within seconds, the image landed in a group chat, captioned, Arjun's secret superpower. Sleeping on the job. From there, it didn't take long for the picture to go viral within the company. By lunchtime, screenshots of the photo were circulating across departments, accompanied by memes and jokes. Someone even created a mock motivational poster featuring Arjun's sleeping face with the caption, when deadlines hit hard, but naps hit harder. While some found humor in the situation, others felt uneasy. A few employees wondered if Arjun was okay. Was this really just a funny moment, or was there something more serious going on? Word of the incident eventually reached Human Resources, HR. By early afternoon, HR flagged the matter to Sundar Pichai, Google's CEO. Typically, such incidents would be handled quietly, perhaps with a gentle reminder about professionalism. But Sundar wasn't your typical CEO. Known for his empathetic leadership style, he approached every issue with curiosity and care. Instead of reacting immediately, he decided to learn more about what had happened before making any judgments. Meanwhile, Arjun woke up abruptly halfway through the meeting. Disoriented, he blinked several times, trying to piece together where he was. When he realized he was still in the conference room, and that everyone was staring at him, he froze. His face turned bright red, and he stammered an apology. I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened," he said, his voice trailing off. Back at his desk, Arjun tried to focus on his work, but it was impossible. Every time someone walked past his cubicle, he couldn't help but wonder if they were talking about him. Messages poured into his inbox, not official emails, but playful texts from coworkers sharing memes and jokes. At first, Arjun laughed nervously along with them, pretending it didn't bother him. But deep down, he felt embarrassed and frustrated. This wasn't who he was, or at least, it wasn't who he wanted to be. Later that day, one of his close friends, Mira, stopped by his desk. She noticed the dark circles under his eyes and the slump in his posture. "Hey, are you all right?" she asked gently. Arjun hesitated before responding. "Yeah, I guess. Just tired, he admitted. Mira nodded knowingly. "You've been working crazy hours lately. Maybe you should take a break or talk to someone about it." But Arjun shook his head. "No, I can't afford to slow down right now. Project Phoenix is too important." His determination masked his exhaustion, but it was clear to anyone who looked closely that he was struggling. Mira opened her mouth to say more, but before she could, another colleague called her away. Arjun watched her leave, feeling a mix of gratitude and isolation. He appreciated her concern, but he didn't want special treatment or worse, pity. Unbeknownst to Arjun, Sundar Pichai was already taking steps to understand the bigger picture. After reviewing the details of the incident, Sundar asked HR to gather data on employee workloads, wellness surveys, and productivity trends. He also requested a private meeting with Arjun, not to reprimand him, but to hear his side of the story. What started as a seemingly simple case of workplace fatigue was about to become much more significant. As the day came to an end, Arjun packed up his things and headed home, dreading the conversations he knew awaited him tomorrow. Little did he know that Sundar's response to the situation would change not only his life, but also the way Google approached employee well-being forever. This version uses basic English while keeping the narrative engaging and easy to follow. Let me know if you'd like further tweaks. The next morning, Sundar Pichai sat in his quiet office, scrolling through the report HR had prepared for him. It included details about Arjun Patel, the software engineer who had fallen asleep during a meeting, and snippets of employee feedback about workload and stress levels. Sundar leaned back in his chair, his brow furrowed in thought. This wasn't just about one employee nodding off. It was a sign of something deeper. He knew that behind every action, or lack thereof, there was a story waiting to be uncovered. Sundar had always believed in leading with empathy. Growing up in Chennai, India, he had seen firsthand how hard work and dedication could shape someone's life. But he also understood the importance of balance. His own journey, from studying engineering in India to becoming the CEO of one of the world's most influential companies, had taught him that success wasn't just about pushing harder, it was about knowing when to pause and recharge. And now, as he looked at Arjun's case, he couldn't help but wonder if Google's culture was inadvertently pushing its employees too far. Instead of jumping to conclusions, Sundar decided to meet Arjun personally. He didn't want this conversation to feel like an interrogation or a scolding. Instead, he wanted to understand what had led to that moment in the meeting room. After all, Arjun wasn't lazy. He was talented, hardworking, and respected by his peers. Something else must have been going on. Later that afternoon, Arjun received an email from Sundar's assistant requesting a private meeting. At first, Arjun panicked. Was he being called into the CEO's office to be fired? Would this embarrassing incident ruin his career? The thought made his stomach churn. Still, he knew avoiding the situation wasn't an option. With a mix of dread and curiosity, he made his way to Sundar's office. When Arjun entered, Sundar greeted him warmly, gesturing for him to sit down. "Arjun, thank you for coming," Sundar began, his tone calm and friendly. "I wanted to talk to you about what happened yesterday. How are you feeling?" Arjun hesitated, unsure of how to respond. I'm really sorry about falling asleep in the meeting," he stammered. "It won't happen again." Sundar held up a hand to stop him. "Don't worry about apologizing right now," he said gently. "I'm more interested in understanding why it happened. Are you doing okay?" For a moment, Arjun didn't know what to say. No one had asked him that question, not his manager, not his colleagues. People had joked about his nap or teased him lightly, but no one had truly cared about why it had happened. Encouraged by Sundar's kindness, Arjun opened up. "I've just been overwhelmed lately," he admitted, his voice soft. "Project Phoenix has been demanding a lot of time, and I've been trying to keep up. On top of that, my mom has been sick, so I've been juggling personal responsibilities too. I guess I haven't been taking care of myself as much as I should." As Arjun spoke, Sundar listened intently, nodding occasionally. You could see the exhaustion written all over Arjun's face, not just physical tiredness, but emotional and mental fatigue as well. When Arjun finished, Sundar paused for a moment before responding. "Thank you for sharing that with me," Sundar said sincerely. "It takes courage to admit when things aren't going well, and honestly, your experience isn't unique. Many people here are dealing with similar challenges, even if they don't talk about them openly." Sundar went on to explain that Google prided itself on innovation and excellence, but those goals shouldn't come at the cost of employees' health and happiness. "We can't expect people to perform at their best if they're running on empty," he said. "Your nap reminded me of something important. We need to create a workplace where everyone feels supported, not just professionally but personally too." By the end of the meeting, Arjun felt a weight lift off his shoulders. For the first time in weeks, he didn't feel judged or ashamed. Instead, he felt heard and valued. Sundar's words stayed with him long after he left the office. Meanwhile, Sundar returned to his desk, inspired by the conversation. He realized that Arjun's story was a reflection of a broader issue within the company. Employees were working tirelessly, often sacrificing their well-being to meet expectations. If Google wanted to remain a leader in innovation, it needed to prioritize its people above everything else. That evening, Sundar began drafting ideas for new initiatives aimed at promoting rest, balance, and mental health. Little did he know, these changes would soon transform not only Arjun's life, but the entire culture of Google. This version uses simple language while maintaining an engaging narrative style. Let me know if you'd like any further adjustments. Arjun Patel sat nervously in the waiting area outside Sundar Pichai's office. His hands were clasped tightly together, and his mind raced with questions. What would Sundar say? Would he lose his job over this embarrassing incident? Or worse, would Sundar think he wasn't committed to his work? Every second felt like an eternity as Arjun replayed the events of the past day in his head. Finally, Sundar's assistant called him in. Arjun stood up, straightened his shirt, and walked into the room. The office was spacious yet simple, no flashy decor, just a desk, a few chairs, and a large window overlooking the Google campus. Sundar greeted him with a warm smile and gestured for him to sit down. "Arjun, thank you for coming," Sundar said in a calm and friendly tone. I wanted to talk to you about what happened. How are you feeling? The question caught Arjun off guard. No one had asked him how he was doing, not his manager, not his colleagues. People had joked about his nap or teased him lightly, but no one had truly cared about why it had happened. Sundar's genuine concern made Arjun feel both surprised and relieved. Still, he hesitated before responding. I'm really sorry about falling asleep in the meeting, Arjun began, his voice trembling slightly. It won't happen again. Sundar held up a hand to stop him. Don't worry about apologizing right now, he said gently. I'm more interested in understanding why it happened. Are you doing okay? For a moment, Arjun didn't know what to say. He had spent so much time trying to push through his exhaustion that he hadn't stopped to think about how much it was affecting him. But Sundar's kindness gave him the courage to open up. Taking a deep breath, Arjun started talking. I've just been overwhelmed lately, he admitted, his voice soft. Project Phoenix has been taking up all my time. I've been working late nights and early mornings to meet deadlines. On top of that, my mom has been sick, so I've been helping take care of her too. I guess I haven't been getting enough rest. As Arjun spoke, Sundar listened intently, nodding occasionally. He didn't interrupt or judge, he simply let Arjun share his story. When Arjun finished, there was a brief silence. Then Sundar leaned forward slightly, his expression thoughtful. Thank you for sharing that with me, Sundar said sincerely. It takes courage to admit when things aren't going well. And honestly, your experience isn't unique. Many people here are dealing with similar challenges, even if they don't talk about them openly. Sundar went on to explain that while Google valued hard work and dedication, those qualities shouldn't come at the cost of employees' health and happiness. We can't expect people to perform at their best if they're running on empty, he said. Your nap reminded me of something important. We need to create a workplace where everyone feels supported, not just professionally but personally too. Hearing these words, Arjun felt a wave of relief wash over him. For the first time in weeks, he didn't feel judged or ashamed. Instead, he felt heard and valued. Sundar wasn't angry or disappointed, he was understanding and empathetic. It was a side of leadership Arjun hadn't experienced before. Before wrapping up the meeting, Sundar asked Arjun if there was anything specific the company could do to support him better. Would flexible hours help? Sundar suggested. Or maybe some time off to recharge? We want to make sure you have what you need to succeed, not just at work, but in life. Arjun nodded gratefully. That would mean a lot, thank you, he said. I think taking a few days to rest and focus on my family would really help. Sundar smiled. Consider it done. Take the time you need, and when you're ready, we'll figure out how to adjust your workload moving forward. By the time Arjun left the office, he felt lighter than he had in weeks. The weight of guilt and stress had lifted, replaced by a sense of hope. Sundar's response had been completely unexpected. It wasn't just compassionate, it was transformative. Arjun realized that his mistake had sparked something bigger, a conversation about balance, well-being, and the importance of rest. Meanwhile, Sundar returned to his desk, inspired by the meeting. He knew that Arjun's story was just one example of a larger issue within the company. Employees were pushing themselves too hard, often sacrificing their health and happiness to meet expectations. If Google wanted to remain a leader in innovation, it needed to prioritize its people above everything else. That evening, Sundar began drafting ideas for new initiatives aimed at promoting rest, balance, and mental health. Little did he know, these changes would soon transform not only Arjun's life, but the entire culture of Google. This version uses simple language while keeping the narrative engaging and heartfelt. Let me know if you'd like further adjustments. After his meeting with Arjun, Sundar Pichai couldn't stop thinking about their conversation. It wasn't just about one employee falling asleep during a meeting. It was about the bigger picture. Arjun's story had highlighted something Sundar already suspected but hadn't fully grasped until now. Google's culture of innovation and high performance was taking a toll on its employees. The company prided itself on creating cutting-edge technology, but it seemed to be forgetting the human element behind that success. Sundar spent the rest of the day reviewing data from HR and wellness surveys. The numbers painted a troubling picture. Employee burnout rates were climbing, and many workers reported feeling overwhelmed by their responsibilities. Some admitted they were skipping meals, sacrificing sleep, and neglecting personal time just to keep up with demanding projects. Others shared stories similar to Arjun's, balancing work with family emergencies, health issues, or other challenges outside the office. What struck Sundar most was how often people felt they couldn't speak up about their struggles. Many feared being seen as weak or incapable if they asked for help. Instead, they pushed themselves harder, hoping no one would notice their fatigue. But exhaustion always found a way to surface, whether through mistakes, missed deadlines, or even incidents like Arjun's nap. Sundar realized that this wasn't just an individual problem, it was a systemic issue that needed addressing. That evening, Sundar sat at his desk, drafting notes for a new initiative. He titled it *Rest is Productivity Too*. The idea was simple yet powerful. Employees couldn't perform at their best if they weren't given the chance to recharge. Sundar envisioned policies that encouraged breaks, promoted mental health awareness, and allowed flexibility for personal needs. He also wanted to normalize conversations around stress and burnout, making sure everyone knew it was okay to ask for support when they needed it. The next morning, Sundar called a meeting with Google's leadership team. When he presented his findings and ideas, there was a mix of reactions. Some executives immediately saw the value in prioritizing employee well-being, while others expressed concerns about potential impacts on productivity. "If we give people more freedom to take breaks, won't that slow us down?" one manager asked. Sundar shook his head. "Actually, the opposite is true," he explained. "Studies show that overworked employees are less efficient and more prone to errors. When people are rested and healthy, they're more creative, focused, and motivated. Yes, short-term productivity might dip slightly if we implement these changes, but long-term results will improve significantly." To drive his point home, Sundar shared Arjun's story, not to embarrass him, but to illustrate how small signs of struggle could signal larger problems. "Arjun isn't lazy or unmotivated," Sundar said. "He's one of our brightest engineers, working hard under immense pressure. His nap wasn't a failure. It was a wake-up call for all of us. If we don't act now, we risk losing talented individuals who feel they can't keep up." By the end of the meeting, the leadership team agreed to move forward with Sundar's plan. They decided to roll out several initiatives aimed at improving workplace culture. These included mandatory recharge days, where employees could take paid time off without needing approval, flexible schedules to accommodate personal commitments, and access to free counseling services for mental health support. Additionally, managers were encouraged to check in regularly with their teams, not just about work progress but also about overall well-being. As Sundar finalized the details of the program, he reflected on how much this moment mattered, not just for Google, but for workplaces everywhere. In an era where hustle culture dominated discussions about success, Sundar believed it was time to redefine what it meant to thrive. Hard work was important, yes, but so was rest, balance, and compassion. By addressing these issues head-on, Google could set an example for other companies to follow. Meanwhile, word of Sundar's response began spreading among employees. When Arjun heard about the new initiatives, he felt a sense of pride. His embarrassing mistake had sparked meaningful change, proving that even setbacks could lead to growth. More importantly, he noticed a shift in the office atmosphere. Colleagues started talking openly about their struggles, sharing tips for managing stress, and supporting each other in ways they hadn't before. For Sundar, this was just the beginning. He knew changing workplace culture wouldn't happen overnight, but he was determined to stay committed to the cause. As he prepared for the upcoming all-hands meeting, where he planned to announce the new policies, the day of the all-hands meeting arrived, and Google's employees gathered in the main auditorium. Rows of chairs were filled with curious faces, some holding notebooks, others clutching cups of coffee. Large screens displayed Sundar Pichai standing at the podium, his calm demeanor setting a relaxed tone for the event. Everyone was eager to hear what their CEO had to say. Rumors about new initiatives had been circulating for days, but no one knew exactly what to expect. Sundar began by thanking everyone for their hard work and dedication. "We've achieved incredible things together," he said, his voice warm and sincere. "But today, I want to talk about something that's just as important as our success: how we take care of each other." He paused for a moment, letting his words sink in. Then, without hesitation, he brought up Arjun Patil's nap, the incident that had become the talk of the company. For a brief second, there was a ripple of nervous laughter in the room, but Sundar wasn't there to shame anyone. Instead, he turned the story into a powerful lesson. Last week, one of our talented engineers, Arjun, fell asleep during a meeting. Sundar said, his tone thoughtful rather than critical. At first glance, this might seem like an embarrassing moment. But when I spoke with Arjun, I learned something important. He wasn't lazy or unmotivated, he was exhausted. Balancing a high-priority project with personal challenges had taken a toll on him. And you know what? His situation isn't unique. Many of us are juggling heavy workloads, tight deadlines, and life outside the office. We push ourselves to deliver amazing results, but sometimes we forget to take care of ourselves. The room grew quiet as Sundar continued. His honesty struck a chord with the audience. People nodded in agreement, some exchanging knowing glances. They had been there too, burning the midnight oil, skipping breaks, and ignoring signs of fatigue because they didn't want to fall behind. This isn't just about Arjun, Sundar emphasized. It's about all of us. Our company thrives on innovation, creativity, and collaboration. But none of that is possible if we're running on empty. So today, I'm announcing a series of changes designed to support your well-being, not just as employees, but as human beings. He then outlined the new initiatives. First, there would be mandatory recharge days, where employees could take paid time off to rest and reset without needing approval. These weren't regular vacations. They were specifically meant for unplugging and focusing on mental and physical health. Second, flexible hours would be introduced to accommodate personal needs, whether it was caring for family members, attending appointments, or simply managing stress. Third, free counseling services would be available to anyone who needed emotional support. We're also encouraging managers to check in regularly with their teams, not just about work progress, but about how you're feeling overall, Sundar added. Our goal is to create a culture where it's okay to ask for help, where taking breaks isn't seen as weakness, but as strength. As Sundar wrapped up his speech, the room erupted into applause. Employees cheered not just for the policies themselves, but for the message behind them. Sundar's words resonated deeply. Rest wasn't just a luxury, it was essential. His empathy and leadership had transformed what could have been a negative incident into a catalyst for positive change. After the meeting, conversations buzzed throughout the office. Some employees expressed relief that they wouldn't have to hide their struggles anymore. Others shared stories of burnout and thanked Sundar for addressing the issue openly. Even those who hadn't experienced exhaustion firsthand felt inspired by the shift in focus. It wasn't just about productivity, it was about people. For Arjun, the announcement was particularly meaningful. As he walked back to his desk, colleagues stopped him to congratulate him. Your nap changed everything. One joked, giving him a friendly pat on the shoulder. At first, Arjun laughed nervously, still embarrassed about the incident. But as the day went on, he realized something important. His mistake had sparked a movement. Because of him, and Sundar's response, Google was becoming a better place to work. That evening, Sundar reflected on the day's events. He knew implementing these changes wouldn't happen overnight, and there would likely be challenges along the way. But seeing the enthusiasm and gratitude from employees reassured him that they were heading in the right direction. By prioritizing well-being, Google wasn't just improving its workplace culture, it was redefining what it meant to succeed. And as word of Sundar's unforgettable announcement spread beyond the company, tech giants around the world began to take notice. The days following Sundar Pichai's announcement were transformative not just for Google as a company, but also for Arjun Patil personally. The weight of embarrassment that had been pressing down on him since the infamous nap began to lift. Instead of feeling like the guy who fell asleep at work, Arjun now saw himself as someone who had unintentionally sparked meaningful change. It was a shift in perspective he hadn't expected, and it gave him a renewed sense of purpose. With Sundar's encouragement, Arjun decided to take advantage of the new policies. He requested a week off to focus on his personal life, something he hadn't done in years. At first, he hesitated, worried about falling behind on Project Phoenix or letting his team down. But when his manager assured him that his well-being came first, Arjun finally agreed. For the first time in months, he allowed himself to step away from work and prioritize rest. During his break, Arjun spent quality time with his family. He visited his mother, who was recovering from her illness, and helped her with daily tasks. He cooked meals, cleaned the house, and even took long walks with her in the park. These simple moments brought them closer together and reminded Arjun of what truly mattered in life. Away from the constant pressure of deadlines and meetings, he felt a sense of peace he hadn't experienced in years. But Arjun didn't just use his time off to care for others, he also focused on himself. He started exercising again, something he had abandoned during his busy schedule. Each morning, he went for a jog around the neighborhood, feeling the fresh air fill his lungs and clear his mind. He read books he had been meaning to finish, listened to music he loved, and even tried meditating, a practice he had always been curious about but never made time for. Slowly but surely, Arjun began to feel like himself again. When he returned to work after his break, Arjun was a changed person. Arjun smiled. "I think I am," he replied. "Taking that time off really helped me reset." His refreshed mindset translated into better performance at work too. With a clearer head, Arjun tackled Project Phoenix with renewed enthusiasm. Ideas flowed more easily, and solutions to complex problems came faster than before. His contributions impressed not only his team, but also senior management. One of his innovative suggestions, a feature improvement that simplified user experience, earned praise during a company-wide presentation. For the first time in a long while, Arjun felt proud of his work. Beyond his professional achievements, Arjun became an advocate for the changes Sundar had introduced. He openly shared his experience with coworkers, encouraging them to take advantage of the new initiatives. During team meetings, he reminded everyone that it was okay to ask for help if they were struggling. "We're all human," he would say, "and we can't pour from an empty cup." Arjun's openness inspired others to speak up about their own challenges. A colleague confided in him about dealing with anxiety and thanked him for normalizing conversations about mental health. Another admitted she had been hesitant to request flexible hours but decided to give it a try after hearing Arjun's story. Seeing his impact on those around him filled Arjun with gratitude. What had started as an embarrassing mistake had turned into an opportunity to make a difference, not just for himself, but for others too. As weeks turned into months, Arjun continued to thrive both personally and professionally. He no longer feared burnout or felt guilty about taking breaks. Instead, he embraced the balance Sundar's policies promoted, knowing it made him a better employee and a happier person. And while he still joked occasionally about his infamous nap, he did so with pride. After all, it had led to something extraordinary, a workplace culture that valued people over productivity, rest over relentless effort, and compassion over criticism. For Arjun, this period marked a turning point, not just in his career, but in how he viewed success. He realized that true achievement wasn't about working harder. It was about working smarter and taking care of yourself along the way. As he looked ahead to future projects, he knew one thing for certain. He was ready to face any challenge, not because he was invincible, but because he had learned the importance of resilience, balance, and self-care. Little did Arjun know, his journey was far from over. The ripple effects of his actions and Sundar's leadership were spreading far beyond Google's walls, inspiring workplaces around the world to rethink their approach to employee well-being. But for now, Arjun was content simply knowing that he had played a part in creating lasting change. This version uses simple language while maintaining an engaging narrative style. Let me know if you'd like further refinements. Months passed, and the changes Sundar Pichai had introduced began to take root across Google. The new policies weren't just words on paper, they were transforming the way employees worked and lived. Mandatory recharge days became a cherished part of the calendar, giving people permission to step away from their desks without guilt. Flexible hours allowed parents to attend school events, caregivers to tend to loved ones, and night owls to work during their most productive times. Counseling services saw an increase in usage as more employees felt comfortable seeking help for stress, anxiety, or personal challenges. The impact was undeniable. Employee satisfaction surveys showed a significant improvement in morale and engagement. Productivity didn't dip, it soared. Teams reported feeling more creative, collaborative, and motivated than ever before. What started as a response to one man's nap had blossomed into a cultural revolution within the company. And at the heart of it all was Sundar's leadership, a style rooted in empathy, curiosity, and action. For Arjun Patel, life at Google had changed in ways he never imagined. He no longer dreaded coming to work or worried about falling behind. Instead, he thrived in an environment that valued his well-being as much as his contributions. His renewed energy and focus led to groundbreaking ideas, including a feature enhancement for Project Phoenix that simplified user navigation and received widespread acclaim. When Sundar personally congratulated him during a town hall meeting, Arjun couldn't help but smile. It was a moment of pride, not just for himself, but for how far he'd come since that fateful day in the conference room. But the ripple effects extended beyond Arjun and Google. Word of Sundar's response to the sleeping incident spread quickly through tech circles. Articles were written, podcasts discussed it, and industry leaders praised Google's bold move to prioritize employee health. Other companies took notice, realizing they too could benefit from fostering a culture of rest and compassion. Some even adopted similar initiatives, citing Sundar's approach as inspiration. What had started as a single event inside Google HQ was now influencing workplaces worldwide. Sundar often reflected on this unexpected outcome. He hadn't set out to spark a global conversation about workplace culture, but that's exactly what happened. For him, it reinforced the belief that leadership wasn't about having all the answers. It was about listening, learning, and taking meaningful action. By addressing Arjun's situation with understanding rather than judgment, Sundar had demonstrated that true strength lies in vulnerability and care. As time went on, Arjun became something of a symbol within Google, a reminder of how mistakes can lead to growth when met with empathy. New hires heard his story during orientation sessions, not as a cautionary tale, but as an example of the company's commitment to its people. Even outside Google, Arjun's name occasionally popped up in discussions about work-life balance. Friends joked that he should write a book titled Asterisk, How I Changed Corporate Culture by Napping Asterisk, while Arjun laughed along. He knew there was truth in their teasing. His accidental nap had indeed made waves, but it was Sundar's unforgettable response that turned it into a turning point. One evening, several months after the incident, Sundar found himself walking through the brightly lit halls of Google's campus. Employees bustled around him, chatting animatedly or typing away at their laptops. Later that week, Sundar addressed another all-hands meeting. As he stood at the podium, he looked out at the sea of faces and smiled. When I first heard about Arjun's nap, he began, I saw it not as a failure, but as an opportunity. An opportunity to learn, to grow, and to become better, not just as individuals, but as a community. His words earned thunderous applause, but Sundar knew the real credit belonged to everyone who embraced the changes. From Arjun's courage to share his struggles to the countless employees who took advantage of the new policies, it was a collective effort. Together, they had redefined success, not as endless hustle, but as sustainable progress fueled by care and balance. Years later, when people talked about Google's transformation, they'd always mention two things: Arjun Patel's nap and Sundar Pichai's unforgettable response. The story served as a powerful reminder that even the smallest moments can lead to profound change, if we choose to listen, act, and lead with empathy. And so, what began as a quiet Tuesday morning in a conference room ended as a legacy of compassion, one that shaped not only the lives of thousands of employees, but also the future of work itself. This version uses simple language while maintaining an engaging narrative tone. Let me know if you'd like any adjustments.